Hello everyone and welcome back to the Quake Pro League as we're heading to Series 2 of the day between Effortless and cha1n. And I think there's quite a bit to talk about here, Flea, because let's talk a little bit about Effortless as well. We'll talk about his good side as well, the fact that we know that during Stage 2 and Stage 3 last season, he was very slowly improving, slowly but surely, and it looked like he was actually, hopefully at some stage, get to that higher half of the America side. But then, stage 4, he's kind of slipped up a little bit. We know his mindset can be a bit iffy here and there. But if he goes back to how he was at stage 2 and 3 and just take it on the head here and there and then try and improve slowly but surely like he did done before, he could be a completely different player. But we know that Efortless is a good player. We know that fundamentally he can be very good, just a little bit predictable at times.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that predictability is one of the things he could definitely work on, but other than that, his fundamentals, he is technically a very solid player, a threat to be reckoned with, and I think that part of it might just have to do with, the format that we had in Season 1, right? Once you're down towards the bottom of the leaderboards, there's very little you can do to get out of it because of how the points worked. You kind of were guaranteed or almost guaranteed that you have to face relegation or just barely make it outside of that bottom echelon of leaderboards, but this time around that is entirely different. Fresh start, it's all about the cash, the money this time around, and I think that might be a good opportunity for Effortless to just, take a breather, refresh, restart. There's plenty of Quake ahead of us. The weeklies, they last longer, 13 weeks instead of 10, plenty of time to practice, work out any flaws. The man is a talented player. He can definitely make it happen. He just needs to, just smooth out the edges a bit.
Yeah, with a game like Quake, it's not something you can improve on overnight, no matter what criteria, what area of your, potential and your individual performance. It takes a very long time, but he was doing it very, very well throughout Stage 2 and 3 last year. He was saying he's improving slowly, but at least he's showing improvement, and I'm hoping he does that because he's got 12 months, possibly 12 months actually, depending on his circumstances and how well he does in the Americas region. Didn't have a good week last week, but this week hopefully he can change things. But let's move on to cha1n because he's been on an absolute tear. We saw at the Quake World Championships, only last month, the fact that he took down cha1n to actually get through to the winner's side. cha1n qualified on the loser's side anyway. But there was one thing that I would say cha1n mentioned, and it stuck to my head, and it feels like that, in his opinion, a lot of the players in the Americas region play too standard, and he feels like he can get around that quite easily. And as you know, with cha1n, he's probably one of the most confident people in his ability.
Yeah, I mean, he definitely has a point there, and I think that he's been improving and making strides and bounds ahead of some of the other players during the league. He's one of the absolute success stories, right? If you would have mentioned that cha1n would have gotten some of the results that he's gotten in the finals and at LAN before the Quake Pro League started, I think no one would have believed you, but instead, he absolutely lived up to the hype and made it happen. So cha1n, back when we started with the Quake Pro League, there was a lot of people questioning who is going to be that third top player in NA, right? Because top 1 and 2, it's Rafa and the Hang. No one doubts it. The results speak for themselves. But then that number 3 spot, is it going to be Nosefa? Saigip? Is it going to be cha1n? I think cha1n has built a very strong case that he is indeed the third best player in NA. He finished top 3 during stage 4 in the points that he got during that stage. And both of the finals, the stage 3 and the stage 4 finals, so the Quake World Championships, he made it until top 3 NA. Top 6 global, got into the finals day. So cha1n absolutely on a tear.
I think it was stage 2 finals of season 1, if I remember rightly, where he actually got really far into the losers bracket. Just trying to remember from the top of my head. And if I remember rightly, we were saying that, was that a fluke, or is he going to show that same level of consistency like he did before? And he has done. He's actually proved to us, well, he's not proved us right or wrong, because we were hoping for him that he would actually continue on and pressure on, and try and break those, the two gatekeepers in terms of Rafa and the Hang on how he can actually progress as a player. And he's done really well. We wouldn't have expected it from many players. cha1n has, proved us, not wrong or right. He's been doing remarkably well in terms of how he wants to push himself, and he's continuing to do so. And you can tell he's not the kind of player where he won't hit a ceiling and then not try and break through it. He'll try and break through every kind of tier he can in any way, shape or form, and he's continued to do that even now. So I'm hoping to see more consistency from him throughout the next few months.
Yeah, absolutely. You mentioned it. Stage 2 finals, cha1n, he knocked out Cooler He knocked out the Hang. He did it during the Stage 4 finals again. He qualified through the upper bracket of NA, taking down the Hang once again to secure himself. The Hang ultimately did manage to qualify through the lower bracket, but it was cha1n who came out on top. So definitely a real threat as we are about to move into this game and take a look at the picks and bans, I believe, for the upcoming match.
Yeah, we sure will. It's down to business now to see who these players will be playing against straight away. So Molten Falls, we to start with on Efortless's pick, will be the Athena and the Anarchy. We Ruins next straight after that with the Galena and the Sorlag. And last but no means least, we do have Slash on Awoken versus the Nyx. Now, the last time I saw someone play as Slash, I think that was, I want to say from the top of my head, Dramis. I think he tried to give it a go, just because of the fact that, of course, with Slash, with her mobility, it widens the range of strategies you can use in order to try and outweigh your opponent. But I still think it's a little bit of a dodgy pick. I don't know about you, Flame.
I mean, it can work, but it's difficult. Effortless, of course, he is good. He's talented when it comes to those crouch sliding, so he's no doubt going to get a lot of utility out of that. But then again, cha1n has got that wall jump that gives him so much additional mobility around the center of the map, and then, of course, that invisibility as well. Now, one thing that really stands out to me is that 4 out of the 6 champions this matchup are lights. We're getting to see Athena, Anarchy, Slash, and Nyx, and that is not a common sight at all.
No, not at all, especially with the Athena as well. We normally see her on Blood Covenant. We've only seen her now and again be played on Molten Falls, but with the verticality of how she actually plays and the movement, I think it should suit Efortless quite well. The only thing is, though, I said it before, but is predictability. As long as he plays quite unorthodox with her in terms of how he wants to try and push and make the flank and contest some of the items, he should be okay. So I wouldn't really say there were actually bad picks for him.
No, I don't think so either. I think this is a pretty balanced overall pick and ban when it comes to these maps that we've got going for us. Molten Falls first, and then afterwards we're going to see Awoken for the final one. So this is going to be an interesting series, no doubt, as we are about to load into the very first map of our second game. It is cha1n going up against Efortless.
Now, that third map with the Slash, I've said it before, Dramis, He did try and make it work. He didn't, he did his very best, but it just seemed like it just wasn't enough. It just seemed like it was, in terms of the champion and ability, yeah, fine, it's great, you can get to certain areas, but when you've got your opponent sitting there top mid, making for you to make the first move every single time, it kind of defeated the purpose in some ways. Maybe to try and get away on spawn, or maybe to try and contest the items in a different angle and different area, then I can understand that. But is it right for Awoken? We don't know, but Effortless will be here later on to try and prove us wrong, as we will be heading to our first map between Effortless and cha1n in the second series of the day to see exactly how things will pan out throughout the course of the series.
Effortless spawning towards Heavy side, actually going to secure himself both of the eye. Oh no, that almost went so wrong. It might still. Oh, cha1n the rockets, they are painful. Effortless. He had such a good opportunity to not only take the Heavy, but steal away the Mega as well, but he kind of overshot it, gave himself too much momentum with the grapple hook, and then the ramp jump on the stairs almost sent him flying off the map. Kept himself within bounds, but cha1n capitalizing off of that situation, getting himself that first frag of the series.
Yeah, it's not the start you'd like, to say the least, but it doesn't matter anyway, as cha1n, he's got the stack, he's got the height advantage as well. Effortless is going to have to knock it on the chin for now and see if he can make any kind of progress by contesting some of these items, as the Heavy will be coming in the next few seconds. cha1n is there, a little bit late, but just on time to at least make the engagement. Gets the Heavy, gets the rail off as well, and this is a possibility for him to be on the chase, but to leave him for now, understandable. He's going to go for the flank to see if he can catch Effortless off guard, but even though he's underneath him, he could definitely jump up here and make the first move, but decides to leave it. Gets the Mega, and now we'll be contesting for that Heavy in the next 10 seconds.
Good positioning from Effortless, reading cha1n perfectly. He just needs to avoid taking one more rail before hopping onto the Heavy, still sticking around. Effortless, I don't know about this. He does dip away in the end. He was hoping for more damage right there, knowing that he had the Heavy behind him so that he would at least have something to restack on, but it's nevertheless dangerous to stay around. Very aggressive push right now, taking a bit of LG damage. Effortless revitalized, it seemed like. Pretty aggressive right now, pressuring cha1n every opportunity he gets.
This is exactly what we want to see from Efortless. Just take his time, play a bit more calculated, don't let things get out of hand, and he's doing it pretty much. But then again, cha1n does have a massive stack, keeping him on his toes. The LG fight comes in, Efortless may have to back away, but he's not in a position to. Maybe he can go mid and get away from there, but as you know, cha1n will definitely have his number and make the same flank around. Will he be able to catch him off guard? Yes, he will. His back was turned. Efortless made the effort to actually try and get away, but it just wasn't to be. But cha1n got a bit of an inkling. Could be around here at LG, which he does find him, gets a great first rocket. Will he be able to clean things up? Yes, he will. 3-0 now in favour of cha1n.
cha1n is trying to run away with the scoreline. Beautiful rail as well. So far, Efortless. His positioning isn't all too bad, but he's losing his engagement. cha1n simply doing most of the damage. Landing most of the shots. Efortless barely staying in bounds once again. This is starting to be somewhat of a trend. Oh, cha1n actually getting the read off. That was exactly where his opponent is. Realizes that Efortless not gonna stick around for that. Knows he cannot contest just yet. Needs more stack, needs more weapons. A tribal though. It's going to nerf Efortless's stack significantly.
Even though cha1n is giving away his positions at the same time, normally he will show that map presence anyway. He's forcing out as well to say, this is my side on the map, even though you could be there, could not be there. He's making sure to keep Efortless at bay. So sometimes some of those rockets or the defensive rockets aren't really there just to hit them, just to let you know that I am here and I am not going to be going anywhere until those items come up and taken for myself. But 5-0 anyway. 4 minutes have passed almost. And it looks like cha1n will be waiting to contest that Mega, but even then it looks like Efortless is just not even going to bother. He's going to let him have it for free, and too rightly so as well. It seems like he's not really in a position, but maybe he could have tried at least get some chip damage with a rail from that angle, maybe from the bottom rail lift, but it seems like he's not really interested right now as the stack is getting a little bit out of hand. Just of how cha1n is doing, at least Efortless has that height control, so we can maybe get the first shot off and try and at least take some damage with cha1n. But then again, cha1n has got the same angle, he's going to try and push him. LG Fight's going to come in, surely cha1n's going to take this, and he will, and will extend his lead here, Flea.
Also interesting to see how cha1n is using the injection, that anarchy ability. You often see players just use it whenever they've got it at the ready, basically just to get that speed boost, to outpace their opponent, get to an item faster, or over time increase their maximum stack. But cha1n has only used his ability 3 times over the course of 5 minutes, so he definitely isn't looking to expand his overall stack too much, isn't using it to try and cut Efortless off. He's sticking to the basics and uses it before or during fights to get that extra top-up of health, so they can take more abuse and dish out more damage while he's at it. Efortless though, aggressive, using the hook to swing straight back up, but can't quite make it. Still stealing away the heavy. cha1n outstacked right now with those rails. They are so spicy. Both players hurting after that engagement. Efortless, can he get the frag at long last? Surely he will indeed tie it up. I was worried for a second there, Lethal, that if he missed that shotty, cha1n would land the rail, but this is a good start for Efortless. He has time to work with, and he's got a stack to boot as well. This is looking good for the American.
I'm not going to lie to you, mate. My heart was going for a second, and you even saw there, oh, and as I say, that cha1n does go off the map, but this is Efortless's opportunity now, especially with that heavy, to back him up a little bit more for the next engagement to try and come back from this. And yeah, I was saying earlier, you saw Efortless took an extra second just to make sure that shotgun shot was actually going to be in his cursor placement, because he was a little bit worried that if he choked that shot and then let cha1n, you know, take him down from there, that could have been it. His mindset would have been straight down, and I don't think there would have been any way of coming back from that. But it doesn't matter. He took his time, managed to get damage done and the frag, and got the second frag straight afterwards. But this is Efortless's opportunity, and it can be quite difficult kind of come back from Molten Falls. Not as bad as Blood Run. On Molten Falls, it depends on the circumstances, but at least Efortless does have that verticality, as you saw from there, and can try and push in with the stack he already has and take down cha1n. The LG is looking good for cha1n here, as cha1n managed to extend his lead again, 7-2.
That was Efortless just getting a little greedy right there, barreling around the corner, and cha1n just making his stand, knowing that he's got the high ground. Not much you can do in those situations. Efortless Going for that rail, yeah, even if you land the shot, you've got quite a bit of cooldown to work with. Meanwhile, cha1n can just blaze you down with an LLG, as he is demonstrating time and time again. Extending the scoreline while he's at it, and Efortless. At this point, he is starting to run out of time.
I was trying to remember as well, I think this might be Effortless's map pick, not 100%. Doesn't matter anyway, because it won't change the scoreline no matter how things change up, and that was a beautiful rail again from cha1n. Combo from the rocket beforehand as well, and he's been looking for the spawn, gets DLGs, looking good so far, and another beautiful rail again. Absolute filth from cha1n.
Can he find the rails? He doesn't even have to. His lead is comfortable enough. Just run it out until the very end, and Efortless. I mean, he has to put himself in these risky situations, but cha1n, very reactive plays right now, is reading Efortless nicely and always ready to retaliate whenever his opponent overextends or just jumps into a room without due caution. cha1n is there to punish it. Going through the teleporter, Efortless, nowhere to run, nowhere to hide. cha1n will clean it up beautifully. 10 frags of a lead already. With just 90 seconds left to work with. Lethal. I think a lot of people are starting to call this in favor for the Canadian.
I've already called it, mate. I have already called it. We know what, I think we all know what Molten Falls can be like, even with a 1 or 2 frag lead. Okay, it's not as bad as Blood Run in terms of being able to make the right rotations round all flanks, etc. But Molten Falls, even though it's slightly bigger, it can be a little bit easier depending on the champion picks. But at this moment in time with the Anarchy and the Inject as well, 11 frag difference, a minute left, this is definitely not happening. The only thing Efortless can do now is make it a little bit more of a respectable scoreline. I don't think even be able to do that at this point in time. His cha1n is literally Ferrariing around, just trying to at least catch up to him in any way, and if we'll find him now, first rocket doesn't really do too much damage, only a measly 10, but he's left him for now anyway. But yeah, like you said before, 13-2, pretty much said and done here. I'm sure Efortless is thinking about what to do for the second map as we wait for this first map to end.
Oh, cha1n styling on us right now, showing us some sweet moves. Of course, he knows that it's over and done with. First map will be a decisive victory in his favor. So he can start playing around a little bit. Effortless though, should already start thinking about what went wrong. Trying to get a grip of himself, moving into the next one. Reset. Back to the drawing board. Can't let this get to him that much. As cha1n cleans it up and we hit the 10-minute mark. That'll be 13-1 in favor of the Canadian.
Yeah, it's a bit of a shame really. It was quite one-sided, but look at the damage dealt as well. There was about 500 roughly in terms of damage dealt in comparison to both of these players. So it wasn't like, you know, the scoreline really showed what the damage could have been. With that kind of scoreline, you would think that maybe, I don't know, Effortless was down by 1,000, 1,500 damage roughly, something like that. But for 500, Effortless always kept it close. It was just a lack of item control he had. And don't get me wrong, he had a lot of top control all the time around the shoddy area and making sure he doesn't go for the telly on numerous occasions. But again, another player where, you know, as soon as cha1n managed to get the first few frags on the board, he kind of panics a little bit and then had to play a lot of disadvantageous movements or, you know, positions on the map. And it's a real shame, really. Like, that was the one frag I was talking about there. The fact that he was really taking his time to take the final shot with the shotgun, which is the right play, but you could kind of tell at the same time where he was being a little bit too cautious and then sometimes too aggressive contesting some of the weapons and the items.
I mean, if you just look at the item pickups, I think cha1n had 29 major items, Effortless had 8. That's not something you can work with unless you are doing 1,000 to 2,000 more points of damage than your opponent, which obviously is often completely impossible. cha1n just had the map and item control, but I think that had a lot to do with the way that Effortless approached this too. One of the things that you have to be so careful of when you're playing one of these fast light champions is that you don't let the speed dominate you. And I think that kind of went wrong a few times for Effortless. He's just zooming, zipping, and swinging around the corners. And then before you know it, you're halfway in the room with no cover, nowhere to escape. And cha1n is just blazing you down with that lightning gun, and there's just no response coming from you. So Effortless put himself in a few too many bad situations by being too fast.
Absolutely, you're not wrong there, me old mate. And as you can see there from the stats, it was 13-3, LG 43%, shotgun 70%. Not really too much of a surprise there. And did you feel like a little bit during that game there was areas, especially around the Mega, where it wasn't really contested enough? Like, I felt like Efortless could have been on top of the LG stairs, or maybe on the other side it could have been on the bottom of the rail lift, at least trying to get some chip damage with the rail or anything, just to at least show some map presence here and there.
I think Effortless, he tried a few times, but always in the same manner, just standing right on top of the bounce pad, trying to shoot down, and just cha1n punished that time and time again. As you said, it might have indeed been better to put himself a bit further back, trying to predict your opponent's movement and then try to do exit damage. We saw that a few times, right, towards the beginning of the game, when he was just holding the top teleporter, he was holding down that super shotgun area, trying to land the rail, and then he stole the heavy. That was beautiful. Time and time again, just sitting straight on top on the Mega, hoping that you can come out on top. Less so. So indeed, Effortless kind of falling into a repetibility trap where he tried the same thing a few times too often. cha1n got the read of him, and ultimately the better too.
Yeah, that was the predictability we actually mentioned earlier on. But that was map number 1, so hopefully he's refreshed his mindset and we crack on with map number 2, which will be the Galena versus a Sorlag on Ruins. And how do you think this is going to pan out? Because, of course, with cha1n being a Sorlag, he's going to have to move around a lot across the map to keep an eye on totems and try and take him out the best he can. Because with Effortless, at least he's got that HP and the barrier, and of course the totems at least keep him healthy and keep him at bay. But it depends on the spawn as well, of course. With cha1n with a Sorlag, he can definitely get more prepared and a little bit faster, ready for those spawn traps, especially when he's standing around top Mega.
Yeah, very true. This is a very interesting map, as are all of the maps in the pool, but we are, for the first time and the only time in this series, seeing a champion imbalance in terms of base stack, because cha1n is running the Soar like a heavy champion. He's got more stack to begin with than his opponents previously, and in the next map they will be equal, they will all be light champions, but this time around cha1n has got a base advantage to work with, and it's going to be very difficult for Effortless to work around not just that, but also the speed. His opponent, as you mentioned, has got the air control. Sorlag, she's a fig girl, she's got a lot of stack, she's also got that speed, that velocity to work with, and Effortless, those totems, he's going to play them quickly, he's going to have to be smart about he uses them if he wants to stand up against the tide, the onslaught that cha1n is no doubt looking to deliver.
Yeah, we're going to see a lot of traps, I think, from the Galena as well, especially with the heavy when he tries and drops down for them. We can see it for some of the tellies here and there. We're not going to see it too much just to heal, or we're not going to see too much of the free totems anyway, because of the fact that, of course, cha1n's one of his main goals will be to be cruising across all the entire map and making sure to take down as many totems as possible. It's going to keep him moving, which is the main thing. But the only problem is the fact that with Effortless as well, with cha1n with the Sorlag, if the Sorlag, as well as cha1n, actually gets a decent lead, he could just run away with it and keep him at bay the entire time and continue chip damage. Not Ruins like Sorlag can be very, very good in terms of cruising around and keeping him at bay. We'll have to see what happens between the two. Hopefully Effortless will be able to put up more of a fight, or will cha1n will continue to demolish like it did in map number 1.
Absolutely. Starting things off on map number 2, this is, of course, Ruins. Both players just sticking to their own items, nothing too fancy, nothing too special. Effortless still lacking the railgun and the LG though, so he can't do much from those rockets at long range. Looking for a way to secure himself most of the weaponry that he needs, but he knows that cha1n is waiting. Canadian player, the Sorlag, is just sitting, watching his prey. That's a good rocket. That is going to help Effortless out tremendously. He's favoring heavy over LG, smart choice. And now he will finally secure that last weapon of the unholy trinity of Quake arsenal that he needs. Oh, a little bit of a sneaky totem right there.
Don't see that too often, but we'll have to see if cha1n can find it. But the first rail is in his favour. But both of them a similar stack now, as afterwards Effortless managed to rail back away. And this is exactly what he should have done at Molten, which he did do a fair few times, but is a lot more accurate this time round. So cha1n is to be a bit more wary and cautious on how he's going to try and tackle down for some of these items. He's railable now, decides to back away, gets the Mega, the Heavy is still up, finally being taken by Effortless, but this could be a time for Effortless to push in here.
Effortless not going to catch the totem, it seems like, might have caught a glimpse of it there and will destroy it, and that is going to tell him a lot. Some players, they only use the totems mid-fight, but he now knows that his opponent is trying to hide them in the sneaky spots. He's got to keep his eyes open and wide and peeled. for those sneaky positions. Now both players showing a lot of restraint at the beginning of this game. Not a lot of damage being exchanged just yet. Both just perfectly comfortable sticking to one major item. Looks like we are going to get a change now. With cha1n going for the heavy and Efortless securing Mega, and that is a lot of damage. Efortless now finally in a good position to maybe get himself on the board, get that first frag of the map. He's got a good read of his opponent too. Seems to know exactly where the sword leg is at. But still, showing too much respect to push in just yet.
I love it. So Efortless is putting so much pressure on. cha1n's not really been given a chance to even pick up so many health orbs, let alone get away from the instance he's in. But he's been there so long now, he might as well get ready for the next heavy. But instead, decides to go for the Mega. Managed to pick that up nicely. Maybe he wasn't really too sure on the timing of the heavy. I think he did pick up earlier, so he should remember the timing of it anyway, but decides to prioritize on the Mega anyway and hopefully catch Efortless off guard at the same time. So some good unorthodox plays there. cha1n but now gets away from the skin of his teeth. Gets that light, so hopefully now pushing for the next heavy. And the question is Efortless going to make a play for it, or is going to stay up there and wait for the Mega? I think Efortless does know he's down there. He just decides to leave him for now.
The totems so far haven't really worked out that well for Efortless. He's got 0 of them on the map. I think he's perhaps changed the strategy around a bit, rather than trying to hide them, hanging on to them so he can get that health boost, that extra injection when he needs them. Both players flying right on by each other. That could have been the first frag if cha1n had only decided to go to the right rather than the left. I'm not saying whose frag it would have been, could have gone either way, but that might have been the opener that we've been waiting for. Efortless still sticking to that Mega health. Nice little rail though. I think that if we're going to see a first fight, it is just going to be an accidental. Both players running into each other. They are showing each other so much respect right now, dishing out a comparable amount of damage, no one really getting the upper hand, and when Efortless did get in the better position for some time, just didn't go for it. Here we go though, the surprise attack DLG is solid. cha1n should be dropping down soon, but that spit, it's going to help him out a lot, knows exactly where his opponent is, forces Efortless away. Oh, heartbreaking. That should have been a frag for Efortless, all things considered. But the spit just forced him to reconsider. Come on, Efortless, this is the one. Super shoddy, drop, finish it! cha1n can still slip and slide out of the room as Efortless. Perfect read, loving it. Read the double back. cha1n perhaps a bit too predictable himself. And Efortless, first one to get a frag in map 2. This is looking good.
I love how you talk about, you know, the first engagement, when the first big engagement is going to be. As soon as you said it, you jinxed it, and they instantly had it around heavy. And it wasn't even like a small engagement either. It lasted for like at least 30 seconds. But finally, it happened, and Efortless got the first frag on the board. And this is where he's going to be wary and stay on his toes. He did such good pressure on cha1n, making sure that he couldn't even get out of the heavy area and stopping him from getting some of those health orbs. But it doesn't matter now, as Efortless, and they're still in a very good spot, but needs to be careful. It's been caught off guard. The LG comes through nicely for cha1n. What a way to come back, and what a time to even come through. As you saw there, Efortless did spawn in that tri-bolt room. Not sure if he got the light. I'm assuming he made the attempt for it, but it wasn't there at the time.
That was a tremendous misplay. Maybe, if he had hit that rail, he could have gone through a teleporter, but he didn't. All we got was that 40 piece of damage from the totem placed strategically at the end of the teleporter. But Efortless absolutely should not have pushed through that up the bounce pad. So you should have known that cha1n would have been waiting with that LG, and now he's in a bad spot again. Is cha1n going to get the read off? Oh, this is so sneaky. cha1n is gonna not figure it out. Yes, he's gonna come around the corner, finally figures it out. And the LG will finish things off. cha1n getting what Efortless is putting down, finishing him off. Beautiful fashion, with rockets to boot as well.
You saw there, but even cha1n was kind of like slowly questioning himself. He was like, okay, did he actually go through tri-bolt telly into rockets, or did he actually stay underneath on the hourglasses? So he wasn't really... I think he did have a very good idea, but I think it was just kind of second guessing because it's been a while. It's quite a common trend that can happen to a lot of players, but you know, he double checked his area, he managed to pick him up nicely, and then now he's got another frag to add to that as well. 3-1, but Efortless had a very good start. It took a while, finally managed to get that first frag, but needs to be careful in terms of how he wants to contest and make some of these engagements, because cha1n now is looking very healthy, and at any moment cha1n could rocket jump up there. He could maybe contest some of the other items that Efortless is even going for now. So Efortless, if he played like he did earlier, it may take a little bit of time, but the problem is he's only got 3 minutes left on the clock here.
I'm like, Efortless jumping just straight towards that small armor right there, that worries me, because that was such a risky play. cha1n absolutely could have caught a glimpse of that out of the corner of his eye, landed a rail, and gotten himself another frag, but Efortless, he just saw the small armor and he went for it without proper regard of where cha1n was really positioned and what his opponent could have done. So he needs to show restraint right now. He needs to start landing some of those rails, get himself to that basic armor. Does have a lot of health to work with, so that is definitely good for Efortless, but he needs unreturned damage. He can't take this rail right now. Spit, equally disastrous, forcing him to rush onto the health bubble, and cha1n, of course, ready, prepared for that. Rockets are solid too. Efortless jumps in, looking for the exit rail. Don't see why he did that. Of course, he's got some heals to work with, though. He needs so much more. If he landed that second rail, could have been a frag, but that is difficult to do against the sword lag dodge.
Definitely is indeed. This is making matters worse now. Efortless is trying to contest anything, even with DMG. But it doesn't happen as cha1n has to win that bout just barely after the last engagement. And it looks like cha1n is in back to almost his default stack. He's looking at a healthy spot. Efortless is on a similar road, but what can he do here? You know, it's 6-1. He's going to have to start pushing himself in some risky plays, risky areas, and some disadvantageous situations now in order to get anything going. But if he gets this frag, this will be so important for him to make some kind of comeback. But no, cha1n is not going to have absolutely none of it. He's going to see if he can try and catch him on spawn. Doesn't really have enough time. Decides to prioritize the Mega. But he's going to try and drop down from him anyway to see if he can fall down and see if he can grab him, but it doesn't matter. He's got the Mega, he's got the Heavy. His stack is looking ridiculous right now, and it's not looking too good for Efortless with only 1 minute left.
1 minute warning.
Both players are actually pretty much tied when it comes to damage output, so it's not as if cha1n is just dealing so much more damage to his opponent, but he's doing it at the right times when it matters the most, when he can clean up the frag and immediately afterwards get himself an item as well. Efortless, his rail game started off strong, is by far his major weapon. Almost half of the damage he's dealt has been with the railgun, but he's fallen short otherwise. He needs to keep it up. The damage needs to be solid right now. If he can't get the frag now, it's over and done. And cha1n manages to dodge out of the room, and with 20 seconds left on the clock, looks like the Canadian player will once again secure himself a map victory.
Yeah, it's way too late now. cha1n just managed to walk away with it in the end, but Efortless puts a great fight in some of those bouts earlier on, but it just wasn't enough. But good play from Efortless, but even better from cha1n. As you saw, he was getting heated up around that 6-7 minute mark. Was barely missing compared to the start of the game, and what a difference that has made. So cha1n, another map win for him. And the damage, like you said before, not really too much. A 33 damage difference. The only problem is cha1n has so much item control throughout the last 2/3 of that game, but you saw there that there really wasn't too much Efortless could have done. Maybe some better ways and strategies of contesting the items instead.
And of course, you have to keep in mind, cha1n, he has the bigger base stack as well. Tying your opponent in damage when they are more naturally stacked than you are just isn't enough. Usually, you have to do a bit more than that, and Efortless just wasn't really able to deliver. He had an extremely strong start, very impressive plays, like this read, perfect. Efortless had a few really solid reads this game, knowing exactly where his opponent is, but this signaled the decline. I don't know why he went up the bounce pad after missing those shots. Such a risky plane. cha1n is just going to lift and float you out of the map into oblivion, and that just really kickstarted it. Beautiful mid-air rocket there as well, so a cha1n deserved victory on map 2 as well.
I wasn't really too sure if when he went up on that jump pad, maybe just before it, he heard any audio cues in terms of where his opponent could be. I don't know if cha1n knew he was there already. Sorry, if Efortless knew that cha1n was there already, because it seems a bit strange that he went up there. And if he knew he was up there, I would have made the assumption that he would have just turned his back 180 and then just gone another route instead. I was a little bit surprised by that.
Yeah, absolutely. That was one of the misplays, and this just reminisces of Sparty, right? Just
Yep.
good start, good opener, and then there's one crucial situation where either he gets screwed over completely, like the telefrag, or he makes a misplay, like going up the bounce pad, and it just ends up backfiring tremendously and giving his opponent so much free reign of the map to start that snowball effect that is so difficult to do anything against, especially on a map like Ruins, when your opponent is a sword, like who is fast and who has the biggest stack in the game. So very well played from cha1n. Effortless, good showing near the beginning. He still has one more shot. The final map was Molten Falls, or Awoken rather. We've already seen Molten, so he still has one more chance to prove himself.
That's right. 2 frags and 2 maps. It's not something you want to see, but hopefully he'll be able to turn the tide as we head into map number 3 very shortly, and he will be using the Slash versus the Nyx. And we said it before as well, I mentioned that with the Slash, I've only seen it once before, and that was when Dramas used it against one of his opponents in the Americas region. And I'm almost certain that did not go well. And people thinking, a bit of a dodgy pick. We'll see what happens. But, the meta's changed a little bit since then, Okay, yeah, sure, fair enough with the mobility that Slash has. It widens the range of strategies which you can put in place depending on the circumstances. But I don't think Awoken is probably the map for that. Maybe Efortless knows something, but we don't. Maybe he has something up his sleeve to maybe try and take down cha1n in any way, shape, or form. Because, let's be honest here, he needs to do something drastic. But then again, in terms of the damage dealt on both players, Efortless did a lot better chip damage, and he did a comparison. His passive play was much better from what we saw compared to Molten Falls. Yeah, sure, he didn't get the items, but he kept cha1n on his toes the entire time. If the shoe was on the other foot and he had the items, it could be, once I said before, a different story. So hopefully, with the Slash and the Awoken for Effortless, it can make something happen, but I wouldn't be too surprised here if cha1n took the series.
If anything, the one thing that Effortless has to keep in mind is just not to let the speed get control of him. We saw it on map 1, putting himself in really bad situations just by flying into a room when he was still playing Athena. Same thing can very easily happen when you're Slash, so you gotta check your corners, you gotta stay cautious. Yes, you're one of the absolute fastest champions in the game, but that doesn't mean that you want to be anywhere as fast as possible as well. Sometimes you just gotta take it slow and be calculated. That's a good amount of damage coming out of cha1n with the Tri-Bolt, though. Effortless will be able to secure the heavy instead. I like this push! No real damage done, though. That could have been so much more for Effortless, but he whiffed his rockets. And cha1n is forced to burn the Ghost Walk. This could be an opportunity for Effortless. Knows exactly where his opponent is. cha1n is stuck. It doesn't look like Effortless is confident in his stack. All he has is the base stack to work with, so he doesn't just want to put himself too far out there. Oof. Nice try.
That's the second one, at least.
Off, though. Yeah.
Yeah, not the first one, but the second one anyway, which is the main thing. But now is time for cha1n to go through. Will he be able to finish him off? Yes, he does. cha1n still left on 130 HP, gets the light to help himself a little bit further. Will he be able to catch him on spawn? No, he doesn't. But instead, anyway, he knows exactly where he is. He's going to see if he can contest that heavy, which he will do, but the Mega will be up around the same time. But Fleeda, I must say, it's a little bit better with Effortless now, but it's not looking too good here. As I say that, Effortless managed to tie things up, gets the Mega, and hopefully with the Slash, you'll be able to get the heavy too, which he just about manages to. He hasn't picked up as of yet, which he will do now. But can he clean up cha1n here as cha1n tries to make a getaway, but it's too little too late, and another beautiful rail there from Effortless.
I'm glad to see Effortless, his rail, finally just kick off. He had 16% accuracy after the first minute, missing pretty much every single shot. It's what lost him that first frag, because he was just missing the shots that he needed to hit to keep cha1n at bay. But it looks like finally that railgun is getting activated, starting hitting those shots, building that momentum. 2 frags in the lead already. Gotta watch your corners. cha1n landing a nice little rail right there, and Effortless. Good control. One of the things that I am worried about, though, is because he's moving so fast, picking up items so quickly after one another, there's very little time between them. Only 4 seconds. Which means that if cha1n puts any sort of an obstacle between the items, he will not be able to make it to the second one on time. So Effortless has to be careful here. Good LG, good positioning to cha1n. Missing that shot is going to help tremendously. Both players so low, heavy. Effortless, are you going to go for it? He will be able to take it away. Landing a beautiful rocket there too. What a beaut indeed. That is going to keep Effortless in prime position for the next rotation. He wants more though. He doesn't just want the items, he wants damage, he wants frags, and he might find himself one! The Verti! Beautiful rail from Effortless. Finally, some life coming out of the man.
I almost cursed him as that good. That was absolutely disgusting with the speed and everything he was up to there. Effortless has definitely changed the pace of the game here, and now he's contesting for the heavy if he can. Heavy is up, but he hasn't been taking it as of yet. cha1n does know, but he's trying to find the right time to get it, but the tri-bulk shot comes through. Effortless is so desperate to challenge. His rail is just absolutely ridiculous right now. Has now added another frag to his tally. And it seems like now with the slash, you can tell that he can contest both the items when required, but at the same time, you've got to remember with cha1n is the fact that he can at least sit back and wait for him to make the first move if he lets the speed get out of his control. But if anything, it's been very advantageous in comparison to what we expected at the start.
I like that push as well. Effortless could have gone straight for Mega. Instead, he just pushed out towards the center of the map. 1, 2, down you go. cha1n dropping yet another frag. Effortless, the American. Finally, gears revving up.
This is a different Effortless, isn't it, Flea? It's nice to see. He's definitely changed his mindset compared to before, and it's just absolutely unheard of. But he's playing with the slash so well. Not even just a champion, but just the way he's progressing against cha1n. But cha1n now, at least he's a little bit better than he was as well. You know, you saw there he could have at least, with Effortless, could have excelled a little bit further, extending this lead. Finally, cha1n put the brakes on that and can try and make matters worse for Efortless if he can, but Efortless is having absolutely none of it. You see, Efortless wants to really continue with that momentum, but like you mentioned before, you can't go too fast, too deep, too quick, because then things will get out of hand, and the rockets are coming in nicely, showing that map presence from cha1n.
What Effortless has to do right now is keep up the pressure. It's been working so well for him in these past few minutes, and it looks like that is exactly his plan as well. Heavy will be going to his opponent, though he has to punish this. He has to land the rail, and he can't. This is risky. Oh, double back? Actually juking cha1n quite nicely right there. His opponent was not expecting that. Effortless, the movement is looking so slick, though. I'm loving the evasive plays right here. But how long can he keep this up? Against the powerhouse that is cha1n, and now cha1n starting to just rev together. cha1n! These beautiful rails, one after another. Effortless, he has to stem the tide. He cannot let this continue.
Yeah, he's got to be really careful. He needs to be a lot more cautious. I said earlier that cha1n, all he needs to do is wait for the first bit of movement to come through from Effortless, and then you can continue on and regain momentum. And that's exactly what he has done. Rails him when he gets the opportunity, expects him to go. But this is the one bit Effortless cannot do. He cannot be as predictable as he was in those first two maps, especially with the slash. It's very easy to get too carried away with the agility and also the mobility of what Slash can do. But the main thing is Efortless is going for more chip damage a lot quicker than he used to. But he can't get caught off guard as again another rail comes through. Efortless needs to heal up here or somehow go back to his default stack. If he doesn't, looks like cha1n could add another frag to his tally, which he may do, and he has done. This is not looking too good.
Now, and this can all once again be traced back to one moment, that Mega, where Effortless overextended. He should have just stayed on the item, but instead he just jumped on through, trying to secure the doorway as best as he possibly could. But in doing so, got bounced up by a nasty rocket, and cha1n just walked on by and stole away the item, and that is what started this entire onslaught that we're seeing the Canadian push up. And that is exactly what we're talking about. The speed. Jumping into the room when you are outstacked. On any other champion, you would have been able to turn around and get back out. When you're playing one of the lights who's moving so fast, once you commit and you get into the room, there's nothing more you can do. And cha1n, his LG, his tracking has been sublime. And Effortless just can't stand up to it. He should drop another frag right here. He still has time though. 2.5 minutes to work with. This isn't lost just yet. cha1n not looking all that healthy. Effortless, can he land the frag? He won't be able to. He should secure the Mega though.
That's what I was worried about. Yeah, Effortless, at least he gets that frag back. I was a little bit worried, thinking that not only will cha1n take the lead, but try and extend it, but at least Effortless has made a stop to that. Like you mentioned before, Flea, still got 2 minutes and 15 left. Plenty of time, and Effortless is in a good spot. He has the stack, he has the speed. It's a matter of catching cha1n off guard when he can. But that was a beautiful rocket from down below, and cha1n was looking to see if he can try and at least capitalize on that somehow, some way. But for him, he doesn't. But Effortless, showing his map presence, find the rockets around the LG area and around Banana to see if we can find out where it could be located. And that rocket there will definitely find some damage. 81 there. It looks like it could be looking to push in, but cha1n has just picked up the heavy and it was slowly but surely was after him. But Efortless decided to back away for now and still got a little bit of time on his hands.
Efortless, he has to be careful not to give up a frag now. 1 frag, totally doable. 2 in a minute and a half, so much more difficult, especially when you're up against the Ghost Hawk, because that ability can just burn such important chunks of time at the worst possible situation. So Efortless has to apply more damage, more pressure first, force out the Ghost Hawk once more. This could be it. This could be a situation where he burns it. There we go. cha1n has to use it. Now Efortless has an opportunity. This is looking... Oh no! The direct! Flying past the pillar straight to the face. Efortless dropping down. He needs to get this frag, or else it'll all be over. Don't give up Mega now.
No, I can't believe that.
Mega.
Yeah, I couldn't believe it. The direct there could possibly close it out. It has a little bit of time, but I don't think it's going to be enough to get 3 frags, especially with both stacks being quite similar, and cha1n could possibly get the refrag straight afterwards. That was a huge shame. This is what we expected, and we really expected it to be not even just it's close, but possibly with cha1n actually stopping him. And yeah, there you go. He's extensively lead again. A little bit of extra damage after the frag for a pre-warning, but yeah, I think that's pretty much said and done now. But that was a fantastic play and fantastic showing from Efortless. But cha1n managed to stabilize, stop him, make sure that he just kind of like reset his mindset and knew that he needs to wait for the first engagements to come, or the first move made from Efortless. And there you go, he managed to take over and managed to go from there. But GG's anyway, any way you look at it, the first 3 maps are done and dusted, all in cha1n's favor. It takes map number 3 as well as the first 2. And it's 11-8, but a fantastic way to end the series here, Flea.
I usually call it a tactical crouch, but this time around there wasn't much to dodge with those crouches out of Efortless. It breaks the heart, doesn't it, leave him? Efortless working so hard, mounting such a beautiful streak of frags. We're gonna see it once again in the highlights. If you missed it, you're gonna want to keep your eyes open for the frags that Efortless is about to showcase, but then Efortless just falling short. That one push, overextending towards the Mega, could have just held his ground, taken the item, and instead pushing up a bit too much forward. I'll point it out once it happens on the highlights. And then he almost crawled and clawed his way back into it. cha1n stood tall, held his own. Here we see just more of these rails. There was just a moment, a minute or 2 in a row, where Efortless just didn't miss a shot. This is where it all went wrong, allowing his opponent to just sneak onto the Mega, slip on by, get that stack boost, the injection, and then Efortless lost so many frags from that little maneuver.
Yeah, it was the Efortless show for the first 5 minutes, but cha1n managed to stabilize. cha1n knew what Efortless was like, and you know, I can understand what Efortless was trying to do. He maybe got a little bit carried away, I'd say. But at the same time, he just wanted to continue on putting on the pressure, because you know cha1n is very aggressive, but he's also a very smart player indeed. And you saw there with the item control, Efortless made more of an effort there, contested him a lot better in comparison to before. Even at one stage with the slash, he was burning all the lights, you know, with how fast he was going across the map, and just making sure that cha1n didn't really have much of an opportunity to even stand a chance in this game. But yeah, that one rail moment from rockets to top mid was just formidable. You couldn't really make that up.
I mean, if anything, this match shows that Efortless, he is technically gifted. He is a solid, a powerful Quake player, a force to be reckoned with if he can just clean up a few of those things and smooth out the rough edges, right? Those few minutes, they were beautiful. They were a sight for sore eyes, just watching Efortless chain together these rails and these rockets, getting himself frag after frag after frag. So he's got what it takes. But then it crumbled apart, similar to what we saw earlier with Sparty. I think there's so much room for improvement still. Efortless, he's got a lot of potential, but if he keeps working on it, I do think he can achieve it.
And I do feel like with Efortless, Awoken is one of his better maps, and he kind of showed that as well. He's able to show off his, ability and his individual skill and how he wants to at least play certain maps out. Maybe he thinks different. Maybe he thinks he's better on other maps like Molten Falls, etc. But I always feel like Awoken has always been one of his better maps, in my opinion. He's always seems to be the most consistent on it in comparison.
Yeah, it's definitely a map that he is comfortable on, and you can see that reflected in the score line as well. cha1n, convincing victory in the end. Well played to the Canadian, good effort out of Effortless, but not today.
Not today, indeed. You know, the first two maps were kind of set in stone. We were a little bit worried at one stage on what Effortless was going to do, but he put up a really good fight. He really could have done, you know, he could have let him walk away, you know, 3-0, and it could have been a similar scoreline, but he really made every effort he could to try and snap back at cha1n. But even then, though, like, what do you feel like Effortless could have done in the first two maps? Do you feel like he was just challenging and contesting a little bit too much towards the second half and just kind of let go of his mindset a little bit?
Yeah, I do think that just played a huge part in it. He was out of position a bit too often, and also just the speed on the first map got carried away a bit and missed a lot of crucial rails. We saw what he can do with the railgun, but in those first two maps, there were a lot of situations where he could have done so much more, where he had shots that he should generally be hitting, but unfortunately for him, it just didn't pan out. And when you do that and you miss those shots against the Soar like on Ruins, she just comes at you, right? You have to do something to stop that, but if you miss one shot and two, she's onto you with that spit, the toxic damage, and there's nowhere for you to run. So definitely a bit of positional plays, but also the accuracy wasn't there from time to time.
Yeah, the damage dealt was there, which shows that Effortless did show the map presence which was required desperately, especially against cha1n. But, you know, a bit more item control, a bit more contesting here and there, then it could have been a little bit different. But let's take a quick look at the Americas rankings after that match and see exactly what's going on so far. So cha1n, of course, on the top of the leaderboard after his win last week against Dewey, which was 2-1. So we'll have to see if Rafa and cha1n can also tie things up or maybe even overtake him. If Rafa and cha1n later on in the season with their second possible win is also a 3-0, then they can overtake cha1n from there. But Effortless, not looking too good, 0 for 2 and lost every single map so far. But I think he made a huge improvement throughout that series, and hopefully things will change a little bit, but we'll see how the coming weeks come. Still plenty more weeks to come and plenty more matches as we have today. So the next series is coming up very shortly in the next few minutes, so stay tuned.